name is Juan Vides. I'm the founder of Winning on Wednesday. Winning on Wednesday is a platform that meets every Wednesday at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And the purpose is to build meaningful relationships, to get to know each other. I always say people do business who they know, like, and trust. Speaking of knowing it and liking and trusting, I would like to introduce my friend Albert Assad. Albert, how are you?
Doing great, Juan. Thanks for inviting me to this great episode.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you quickly introduce yourself?
Yes, I am the founder and CEO of Atlantic Consulting Solutions. We are a management consulting firm that specializes in strategically scaling small businesses into high value enterprises. We operate out of Atlanta, Georgia, but we work across the country and also into Canada and Latin America.
Excellent. Wow. So take us way back. Take us now. Where did it all got started? Tell us where were you born, raised? Tell us the whole story.
Yes. Well, I was just invited a couple of weeks ago to Los Angeles, California, to give a talk to a couple hundred business owners on finance, and that's where it all began. As when I was standing there, I told everybody, I was actually born a couple miles from that location, right? Because we were at the Omni in Los Angeles, and I was born in General Hospital there, and I grew up about 13 miles from there. So I'm originally from Los Angeles. I come from um, a a poor Hispanic family that spent years waiting to cross the border to get their papers. Once they got them, they came across, and you know they started their life over here. Um, at one point, my mother got married, returned to Mexico. um, my father left when I was 6 years old, so my mother decided to come back to the U.S. And so I felt, even though I'm a second generation, technically, I guess, Hispanic, I'm really first generation because I was born in the US, but then we went straight back to Mexico. So when I came back to the US, I actually did not know a word of English. And I'm sitting there in third grade, staring at everybody, not understanding what they were talking about or what they were doing.
Okay.
And so it was a completely new immersion for me into this new culture and new environment. But luckily, I was very good with numbers from a very young age. And so I was always in first place in math.
Wow.
So that's where it all began. Then after that, my mother believed very strongly in education. So she sent me to a boarding school in New Hampshire. Even though we didn't have enough money or anything, my mom worked very hard to be able to afford that. And I also got a scholarship and all that. So I went there, got a great education. And then from there, I moved to Europe for a time. I lived in Europe for almost 5 years. And I did my first master's in Rome, Italy, and it was in philosophy. Um, and for me, that's probably the best discipline that I've studied because it allowed me to understand how to get to the root of a problem, which now as a consultant is exactly what I need, right, to do. Um,
Right.
and then after that, I moved to, I lived in Paris for a time. I lived in Washington, D.C. for a time, then went to Mexico City where I lived. I got my MBA there, which was an international MBA. And we had a great experience. Professors from different universities, such as Oxford and um, Harvard and Princeton and AVA and et cetera. So it was a great experience. And then from there, I developed, my own business in HR. Ended up selling that business. Then I moved back to the U.S. and I got into the financial world. And so now I'm actually finishing up a master's. It's called the GMP at the Wharton School at UPenn.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, it's a lot. Question for you, and you kind of went in a little bit. We went a little bit, but we'll go into about role models. You mentioned your parents, you mentioned your mom. You have any other role models that influenced you or helped you, or any role models that inspired you?
Yes, so definitely one of my role models is my mother, right? She is an extremely hard worker. She had to really fight to get through school
Yeah.
because she wasn't one of those that she would hear everything and learn it immediately. She had to study a lot, but she taught me perseverance. She taught me how to fight. She also started a nonprofit called Helping Hands Medical Missions, where she takes doctors from the U.S. to third world countries
Wow.
in Latin America, in Africa, and in Asia.
That's amazing.
And I got a lot of that came from her, right? And so that's why I give back a lot to the community.
Yeah.
I'm on a lot of nonprofit organizations on the boards,
Wow.
helping out in different ways.
Well, that's amazing, and thank you for her, and she's doing God's work. That's amazing. Wow, that's a great story to share. What about your hobbies or interests? Do you have any hobbies or interests that you?
Yes. So, well, I love traveling. My wife and I love to travel around the world. We are big foodies, so we actually really enjoy going to good restaurants, whether they are holes in the wall or whether they're Michelin star, restaurants. We love
Yeah.
them all. We explore, and we travel around the world, really going to different restaurants like that. I also play ice hockey, which I really enjoy, and we love movies.
If I'm not mistaken, I think there's a street truck vendor in Mexico or something like that. They got awarded a Michelin award.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, it's another hawker that got. I've actually been to the one in Singapore that
Okay.
has a Michelin star. There's two of them there,
Yeah.
and then now the one in Mexico got one, which is pretty amazing. A
Uh,
taco stand.
Tacos, yeah, like I was like, wow, 4 star Michelin, but a lot of people, all the world chefs go there and they get recognized. So it's wow, it's amazing. So I'm a foodie too. So and it's it's so amazing because we Albert, we had spoken. You and I have very similar stories and similar backgrounds. We almost like opposites. I came here to from El Salvador, and the same thing with my mom. And I wow, that's it's truly amazing. And so you're talking about your education that you went to. Where did you go to school for originally?
So I studied. You're talking about college.
Well, yeah, high school. Let's go back to high school. You
So
because
high school, yeah.
yeah,
So middle school was in a boarding school in New Hampshire,
right. You should mention
and
that.
then I went to high school in Connecticut, and
Right.
these are both boarding schools.
By the way, that's amazing because number one, it's amazing that your mom saved up all that money to go to boarding school, right? But you look at hindsight, right? The networking. I'm sure you speak to a lot of your classmates, a lot of
Oh
the
yeah,
people from there, and those are from affluent areas. So this is not a good area. So right. So I'm sure that was worth it, the investment.
definitely. Yeah, it was an international school, so there were kids from all over the world. Some yes were affluent, other ones were not, and there were struggling families, right, that were trying to make ends meet, but they believed in education, and I think that's the most important element
Right.
here. Because again, I come from a very very poor family. Like my mother's family, they were born in an adobe house with 3 rooms and 9 kids. And this is on a farm in the middle of Zacatecas, in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, it's because of education that we've been able to overcome that and be where we are now. So
A
we've been
hundred
very
percent.
blessed.
Listen, I think that opens up your mind to the foods, culture, and opens up other things. When you're educated, to your point, like we're talking about foodies, right? We learn about the culinary experience. We know about food because you become educated. You become what these things are because you learn how to appreciate that, and that opens up more doors and opportunities in business.
That's right, 100%. I mean, I will attribute a lot of my current behavior and thanks to that, some of my success of what I've been able to achieve uh, to that, to those initial upbringings, right? As a young boy, learning. I mean, they would teach us really, kind of think it's a little ridiculous, but they would teach us how to eat an apple with a knife and fork. I can eat a banana and I can peel an orange with a knife and fork. You're like, oh my gosh, that sounds ridiculous. But it actually teaches you discipline. It actually teaches you to be able to sit with, high level diplomats or, and be able to mingle with them, but also to be as simple as possible and hang out with anybody that you find in the street, even if it's a street vendor, whatever, like it doesn't matter, right? What you care more about is the individual and the person, not
Right.
what they have and the things.
Correct, correct. And I think the more you're educated, to your point, the more you're open, the more you're receptive. And you could tell these are good business people. They're genuine, they're sincere, they care about their customers. And that's something that,
Yes.
has to resonate with that. And I find it a lot of times, unfortunately, in the business world, people don't respect, or they don't do the right things. They're not sincere. They do the totally opposite. And I'm like, wow. you know. But it does happen. It does happen. But I think with education and us knowing and continuing education, that for that matter too, we always learning. We never stop learning. To say we know everything, that's it's not impossible. But
100%. Yeah. And that's why I have 4 master's degrees, because I believe in ongoing education. Now I'm studying at an Ivy League school, and it's because I want to learn more. The more I learn, I remember when I finished my first master's degree, my professor said, "Now you know how little you know."
wow.
And it's true, right? The more
Yeah.
you study and the more you learn, the more you realize, I don't know anything, right? And that comes from Plato, right? Plato is actually the one that says, I don't know anything. And I believe in that, right? That's why you have to surround yourself by people that are even smarter than you are to help you to be even more successful.
Right. And that's the thing with some entrepreneurs that they don't trust. And I always say that people do business where they know, like, and trust. And unfortunately, a lot
Right.
of business people, they start up in business, it's that trust factor. They don't know how to trust people. And of course, we've been burned. As an entrepreneur, I've been burned so many times. But the important thing about that is you learn from your experiences, and you learn how to engage with that.
Yes. Yeah, that's super important, right? That's why I think referrals are so important. That's why doing, background checks, background checks. What I mean by that is reviewing and making sure you look at what people say about them, look at what the services are offering, look at their trajectory to see what they've accomplished. A lot of that really helps you and gives you some insight. And then meeting with them and having a conversation with them, right? Almost like, hey, let's go hang out at the bar type of conversation, not necessarily going to the bar, but to that level of just common discussions where you get to know how the person thinks and what's really most important for them, because people reveal themselves in how they speak. And that's
Right.
why I think it's
And
so important to listen, right? To listen.
and eat. People judge you by the way they eat.
Actually, I'm glad you bring that up. One of my mentors when I was young, he told me, if you want to get to know somebody, there's 2 places where a man will reveal himself, who he truly is. And he says one is at the game when they're playing because their passions come out, and 2 is at the table because you see how they eat and how they behave while they're eating. It just says so much about them. That's why there's that famous story where apparently Henry Ford, right, he was looking to hire, right, who was going to take his place. And he had 2 people that came to eat. And one of them only talked about business. And the other guy didn't say much, but he thanked the waiter. And at the end, he chose the guy to thank the waiter. And the other man was not happy, and he asked him, why do you pick him? He says, because all you did was talk about business. You didn't even notice the people around you that were working there. And so that says a lot.
So, folks, kindness and sincere works. So be kind and sincere, and business, it does work. To your point. And
Yeah, yes, I believe in that 100%. Some people some people think it doesn't work, and it does take some time to build up a good reputation, obviously. But if you have this attitude, that's how you build real trust with people. And that's how they know, like, I'll give you an example. One of my clients, when I first started my consulting firm, um, he came up to me one day and says, Albert, I've been approached by our biggest competitor and they want to buy our business. And I looked at him, and I swear for 2 seconds, I was like, oh, no, no. I had just started my firm. He was really kind of the only revenue or the biggest revenue that I was getting at that point. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all this revenue. And I got a little scared for a couple of seconds. And then I thought to myself, no, I have to tell him what is in his best interest, not mine. And I told him, I said, you know what? I think you should seriously consider selling the business. Let's listen to what they have to say. And if it's good, do it. And so we did. We listened and all that. And then in the end, he decided not to sell it. Thanks be to God. That helped me a lot. But I actually, I did the right thing. And I'm going to tell you, man, it was not easy. But I think that
wow.
set the tone for the rest of the years of my consulting. And that's why we've been able to build a really good reputation with our clients, because
Yep.
I think they really see the sincerity and authenticity
Right.
of how we truly want their best interest. We don't do marketing. It's all word of mouth, and it's great people. We love working with great people. And we've just gone referred and referred and referred and referred because of this approach, right? Which is sincere. I mean, if you're going to ask me about where did I start my career, I started out in the nonprofit world. What my second master's degree was in social responsibility, right? And that was my whole world. Why? Because that's what my mom had done. She was a big influence, and I always loved helping people. And so for me, consulting is a way of helping people and still making a good living. Because I feel like we're not only just helping to improve a business, we're helping a business owner to improve his quality or her quality of life. They can make more money for their family, right, to achieve the goals they want. And then they generate jobs, which then they help their local community to make more jobs. And then they give a better service and a better product. And it just becomes a compounding, better business. Yes, 100%, but it goes beyond that. I see it that way. And that's why, to a certain extent, I love what I do and I have a passion for it, because it's not just about making more money, which obviously is really important. It is an intrinsic part of it, but it's much more than that, right? It's truly helping people.
I have to say, because we both come from two different cultures and, we have experienced the American dream. I just have to say, given the opportunity this country has given us, I'm just, amazed and wowed and grateful for that and thankful for that because, in any other place in this world, we wouldn't have those opportunities that you and I have.
You are 100% right. I mean, look, part of my life, like I said, I lived it in Europe. I lived it in Latin America. I've lived in 6 countries. So I've seen other cultures. I've seen other societies. And there is no way I personally could have achieved what I've achieved in the US in any other of those countries.
100%. Yeah. So, hey, listen, this time I would like to talk about the golden nugget. The golden nugget is a segment where we want to leave something valuable behind, a piece of information to somebody to better their career or be a better business person or just better overall. Anything that you learned in your journey that you want to leave behind.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me, especially as a consultant, how do I do it? Because I have several businesses, and I'm writing a book. Like I have young children, and I always tell people one thing. One of my mentors taught me was it's not about work-life balance, right? Because it's kind of a negative approach to I have to choose one or the other. And the word that I've learned to use is actually integrate. How do I integrate work and my personal life? And so I've been able to do a lot because I have integrated my personal life with my work life. And being a business owner, it makes it a little bit easier for me to be able to do that. But that has allowed me to spend, I mean, every day I spend many hours with my son, right? I try to spend 1 hour in the morning at least, and then in the evening when I get home, 2 to 4 hours if I can, depending on the day. Um, but also, I have a lot of work to do, so I'll go spend time with him, and then I go back to work. And after he goes back to bed. Finding ways of how to integrate your personal life with your work life, I think, gets rid of a lot of stress, gives you a lot more peace, and it helps you to still achieve and accomplish a lot more, right, than you possibly could on your own. That's one. And two is surround yourself by people that motivate you, people that inspire you. I talk about this with my clients all the time. That's one of the reasons also why several of my clients keep me on board for a very long time, because they love our conversations and they love how they feel motivated. Like this morning, I just went to meet a referral that another client of mine referred me to. At the end of the conversation, he was like, "Oh man, I really want to work with you. I just feel motivated again for the first time in 2 years." And I'm like, "Great, that's what this is all about, right?" But it's not just feelings, right? It's making sure that you actually follow through on it and achieve results. But it's important to make sure you've got that motivation and that focus. And so for me, it's all about integrating, and it's all about making sure that you surround yourself by the right people that are going to keep you focused on your vision. Because man, the day-to-day grind, man, it just pummels you into the ground. And I feel it sometimes myself, right? Even though I help a lot of other people, but sometimes I need that myself. And so I have a group that I'm part of that
Yeah.
also helps me to be able to re-energize myself every month to keep going.
That's why I build Winning on Wednesday. I have a group of friends that help me every week. Help me out for 5 years. No, and to your point, that's what WOW is about. We feel energized. You can have a bad day, and to your point, it's always good to have somebody to talk to because hey, you can have a bad day too. And for you
Yeah,
to call somebody and say, hey, you know what happened? You're not going to believe what happened to me, or at least have a standing ear. But more importantly, there's sound advice because I have a friend like this, and I'll shout out Louis Cano, who worked for IBM for 30 years. I always call him for advice, and he's like a mentor of mine. So if I ever have a
yeah,
bad day, hey, you're not gonna believe what's happened. But what's interesting, he turns it into like almost like an educational experience with like, you know, makes you see things from a different point of view. Which I'm like, wow,
yeah, exactly.
I never would have thought about that. You make a
Yes,
valid point. Maybe somebody had a bad day. You never know.
that's right.
Somebody, and you know what? They're usually right, So, but
Yeah, yeah.
wow,
We all need a sounding board, right?
right.
And so this stuff that I mentioned, that's on the personal side. On the business side, the golden nugget that I would say is make sure you understand finances. I will tell you the majority of businesses that have not been successful, it has not been because they haven't been able to sell. It has not been because they have not had the right structure. It's because they did not know their numbers. And I've interviewed over 200 CFOs at mid market America, and even more on the small market America. And I will tell you that for me, most of them are not real CFOs. And most business owners, especially within the small business world, they don't know about finances. So a lot of times I question, how can you make decisions in your business, qualified decisions, without knowing the true financial impact of what your decisions are going to result in. And so I highly, highly stress that business owners, they don't need to become experts. That's why they hire other people to do that, but they need to have a relatively good, at least high level understanding of their finances and how cash flow works, because that is extremely crucial and fundamental for business success.
Especially now at this time with our economy and the climate that we're in right now, you definitely need to know your numbers.
Oh my goodness. Yes, extremely, extremely
It's
so.
really important, and that's the vitality of a business because that's a make or break a business. So if you don't follow your numbers, you're not going to be in business that long. So
That's
to your
right.
point, yeah, you got to know your numbers. Absolutely. I want to talk about the networking groups or spheres of influence that you belong to. Do you belong to any?
I do, yes. So I'm there, there's a particular group that I really enjoy going to. I meet with them once a month. They're called the Lumen Institute. And I love it because these are very successful businessmen that talk about business, but they talk more than just about business, right? They talk about their personal lives, right? They talk about their faith, right? They talk about what's going on and share this with the team that's there to help them stay focused, to help them improve, to help them be better men. And in the end, I believe that this is what it's all about, right? To be a better man, to be a better husband, a better father, a better businessman. When you bring it all together, you feel very integral, and you feel amazing. You feel great. So that's one of the groups, right, that I really love to hang out with and just spend time with these men, right? Because we're all in some sense like-minded, but very different at the same time.
Oh wow, that's excellent. Let's talk about your company, Atlantic Consulting Solutions.
Yes, yes. So Atlantic Consulting, um, really, I started this firm 10 years ago.
Okay.
Our goal is really to help businesses grow. And we focus on three things, right? We focus on strategy, as you can see right here. We focus on strategy, we focus on management, and we focus on finance. Why those three services? Because we're talking about small businesses that are privately held. They need someone that has a vast experience with a lot of different aspects of business. And what we do, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we're very strategic in how we do our consulting because we need to look at things holistically in order to be able to give really good advice. Sometimes, just to give one example, sometimes a CPA will tell you, hey, spend as much money as you can in December so we can lower your taxes. he's right. And and the CPA is doing his or her job. But when you look at it holistically and strategically, you're like, wait a moment. No, 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 no. Don't spend that much in December, because January and February tend to be your lowest months in the year, cash flow wise. So we need to make sure we have enough cash to get through those months, because otherwise you're going to be requesting for a loan or getting a hard lender, which happens a lot. And so those are the types of, that's one example. I could give many examples about, either marketing or legal and all that. And so our approach is to helping business owners make the best decisions possible, understanding holistically the impact that that has on their business. We'll also help you create that vision for your business that you need in order to have a goal. What are we going to work on? And then develop your business model to help you achieve that. And that's where the management piece comes in. It's like, okay, let's create process that will make you effective and efficient. Let's have a right team and leadership in place that's going to help you to really manage this growth. Because at some point, you're not going to be able to do it all yourself. You need to build a team around you that's going to help you to achieve that. And then lastly, all this strategic and all this management needs to give results, and that's the financial piece. How do I manage my finances? What's my real cost? What should my price really be? What's my cash flow? Do I need a line of credit? Do I need a loan to achieve all this? How much am I making really, even beyond profits? Because a lot of people talk about profits, and I'm like, I don't care about profits. What I care about is your cash flow. Because in the end, you still have some of your biggest expenses come after your profits, right? Which is debt for many people, and taxes. And that's not included in your profits. That comes afterwards. So I always tell people 5% profitability equals break even. 10% equals 5%. So when you think you're making money, most of the time they're not. And that's why people have such a hard time with cash flow, because they're not making enough money, but they think they are, because they've been taught to look at the wrong financial metrics, right? The wrong indicators. And so that's a big thing that we do as well. We come in and we give a lot of education as we do consulting, in order to help our clients be able to make better decisions and understand how to run their business better so that they can truly scale it. And that's why, as I started out at the beginning, what do? We strategically scale small businesses into high value enterprises.
Wow, that's wow, amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. That's it's really amazing. I just want to touch on something. You touched on something about knowing your numbers, and to your point, it's almost like working out, going to the gym, right? You want to lose weight, you gotta have to step on the scale. You have to look at those numbers. If you have to hold accountable, you have to tell yourself accountable. You got to work out, do the diet, proper nutrition in order to lose weight. So the same thing in business and finance is kind of the same thing. In a way, you have to watch those numbers. If you don't watch those numbers, you can easily be effective on your business, So you got to keep accountability. It's about accountability. And at the end of the day,
100%.
it's about you. It's with you. It's with you are responsible at the end of the day. It's up to you, because
That's right.
you're the leader, you're the boss of the business, and but it's your responsibility. But again, you're gonna go to the gym and work out and be responsible and accountable. So the same thing in business, with
That's
the
right.
spreadsheet.
Yes. And we've we worked with over 300 businesses, helping them successfully achieve this. Many of them have hit the Inc. 5000 list and the Franchise 500 list. We have a methodology. I kind of call it the Tesla model, because there's 4 principles that we focus on to help you really be able to scale your business, right? One's having a clear vision. 2 is having a good company culture. 3 is making sure that you have good branding. And 4th is having a strong business model.
Wow, 300 customers. You don't need to mention specifically anyone, just don't mention them out, but you can mention what industries out of those 300s, would you say, which?
Yeah. Great question. Yeah. So we've actually, since I started the business, we've worked with 38 different industries, right? I tell people we are not industry experts. We are management experts. So if you know how to offer your service or create your product, but you don't know necessarily how to run a team or how to run a business or understand finances, that's where we come in. This is why I say that we partner with business owners, right? Strategically speaking, because we help you, we complement you to become even better. by giving you what you don't have and by teaching you about it so that you can continue that on your own afterwards.
And again, I'm just curious, what are some of the industries that you?
So we have a lot of construction, and we have everything within construction from high-end residential, a building, cement companies, some of the larger cement companies, a lot of roofers, that have grown. Some roofers, clients of ours, have gone from the 300,000 to 30 million in 5 years. We have graders. And that's within construction, right? But we've also had technology companies. We've had law firms. We still have law firms. We still have technology companies, marketing companies, medical. You name it. It's been
It's across the board.
right?
Wow.
Yes.
But the reason I mentioned this is because every industry you mentioned, I know somebody. See that, and that's the reason why I asked you, because in my mind, I'm saying, and the beauty about these interviews, I could always play back and hear it, and I say, what did he say? Okay, he said this, that. Now I'm gonna connect them to these people and make some introductions, and that's one of the reasons why I asked.
That's great. Well, and another thing just to bring up is we do this bilingual as well, right? We can offer all of our services 100% in English and in Spanish.
I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people, and again, it's about educating and letting people know that the Latino market is one of the fastest growing in the United States.
You're right.
It's one of the untapped markets. And I always tell people, like a law firm, get a bilingual clerk. We could do the website in translation in Spanish, but don't use Google Translate or AI. You have to use authentic Spanish. And we have collegiate, professors from universities, from Latin America, that do all our translations, the proper translation. Because when you deal with legal, you got to remember, you got to make sure it's all proper. And,
that's right.
And again, these are some of the things that we just mentioned. But wow, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for Albert. This has been a wonderful interview. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And the other thing is, what's the best way to contact you if people want to get in touch with you?
Probably the best way, because I'm traveling a lot, is to send me an email. And I'm not sure if you guys can see my email address or not on the screen, but my email address is Albert@Atlantic-C as in Charlie, S as in Sam.com. So again, that's Albert@Atlantic-CS.com. That's the easiest. Actually, I would say that's the best way to contact me, because I don't usually answer the phone if I don't recognize the number. I get too many calls. Now, if you leave me a voicemail, I will definitely call you back. Right. So my number is 404-831-1592. If you want to reach out to me through phone, again, that's 404-831-1592. And you can give me a call whenever you want. Just please leave a voice message. I'm happy to return the call.
All right, Albert, thank you so much for sharing your story. And if you want to be a guest on Winning on Wednesday, please simply go to our website, www.winningonwednesday.com, and sign up as the first-time guest. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, Albert.
Thank you, Juan. Really appreciate the invitation.